You're listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Welcome, listeners, to another episode of All Good Things, a Star Trek Universe podcast here on the BQN. I'm your host, Christos, and with me today are Kelvin and Ben. Patreon patrons, remember you can now watch All Good Things as an extended video edit of this very episode at patreon.com/BQN. Well, hello, guys. How are you doing, Ben?
I'm doing well. How are you, Christos?
I am amazing. It is Pride weekend here in San Diego, and somehow I've still managed to take a time out to record with you guys. So it's all good.
It is your girl Beverly today, after all.
That is it. I mean, I guess that's that special little carrot, pardon the redhead approach there, the ginger, to get me involved today. And Kelvin, my love, how are you?
I'm really good. I was just thinking, is Beverly like the orange stripe of the Pride flag?
Yeah.
Beverly Pride.
She's representing, yes. She's representing.
Yeah, you're on a liver break at the moment to let some cells come back so you can go back out drinking later.
Yeah, so yesterday was was more of a daytime thing. So we actually were in pretty early last night, which was good. Like I said, good night. Sleep it off, and we'll be back out today. And then, of course, there's World Cup finale coming up in a few hours today, too. So I think we're going to kind of blend that together.
We don't talk about that here in England.
Well, let me just make it gay for you. Madonna's the halftime show.
Oh, no, I mean, as if we were in the final. So.
Oh, I know. Oh, please, you didn't care anyway.
No, well, I was like, what? So we're not getting the public holiday now? I planned for this.
Right. We always got to find a way to be invested.
Well, it's lovely to see you guys. I'm just back from Sitges, as you know, which is one of the reasons we've not had an episode for a couple of weeks while we've all been traveling and doing our own thing. And as we were just saying before you hit record, I was quite haunted walking around all the usual places in Sitges because you guys weren't there with us this year after such a fantastic time we had last year. So yeah, it was amazing as always, but your absence was very, very much felt. Even Lady Diamond was asking, where are all them Americans?
Oh,
well, I was feeling equal parts FOMO and joy living vicariously through your photos this year, but
yeah,
we've got to find a way to go back. I think 2027 needs to be the return of the Trek crew to Sitges.
Oh, agreed.
Yes.
Agreed. It was fun, looking at your pictures and knowing everywhere you were. I know that space. I know that space. Oh, I know what time of day it is. Yeah, next year. So after this long little absence in the Trek world, I feel like Trek is waking back up again for the next few weeks. We are returning to new episodes of Strange New Worlds, and the day this episode drops, actually. So Strange New Worlds returns with season 4. If you guys been seeing all the social media, there's been a lot of clippies out there. What are you guys thinking about season 4?
I'm excited for season 4. I think most of what I've seen, the marketing is working. It's making me want to tune in. It's getting me excited for it. And I think the timing couldn't be better because we've been hit with a lot of news lately, from the cancellation of Starfleet Academy to the putting it out there that this is the first time in 60 years or in however many years that either a Star Trek or a Doctor Who hasn't been in production. And so it feels good to have a good milestone coming up and more new content that we haven't seen yet.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm. I'm going in a little pessimistically this year, if I'm honest. I'm almost in the headspace of I've gotten used to not having new Star Trek, and I've been really enjoying watching old Star Trek and, just an extended period of rewatches. And I think it's just because I was left a little underwhelmed by season 3 of Strange New Worlds. So I'm going in with lower expectations than I did on the back of season 2 into season 3, with the hope that if I kind of go in low, I'll be pleasantly surprised. So that's the mental route I'm taking. I'm going to watch it regardless, clearly. So I'm not kind of like, it's going to be amazing.
I know what you mean about looking back at old Trek. I'm going to give a plug to another new podcast. So there's a new podcast called Warp Factor 5. It's Alex Perry, who sometimes guests over on Infinite Diversity. So shout out to Alex. But it's Warp Factor 5, and he's starting from the beginning of the whole thing in chronological order. So he's starting with Enterprise, and every episode is like he reviews 5 episodes at a time. And so,
Wow.
So yeah, exactly. So your homework, I think he drops every 2 weeks. So your homework is to watch the next 5 episodes of Enterprise if you want to keep up. And I've actually started doing it. I'm like,
I found myself watching. I watched the end of season 2 of Enterprise, and when you watch that, The Expanse, you're like, oh no, now I've got to start the Zindi.
Yeah.
You just do end up watching all of it.
25 episodes later.
So does that mean, Christos, when he starts reviewing the original series, he's going to have to rename his podcast Warp 7? Because that's what they get to in the original series.
Yeah, I think the Warp Factor 5 has to do with the 5 episodes, though.
Oh, of course. Oh, yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you for explaining that. I didn't register.
Yeah, it's okay. It's it's Sunday. But no, it's pretty good. So shout out to that. It's actually, like I said, it kind of gets you into, I don't know, gets you back into it. Like I said, it's made me want to watch Enterprise. So it didn't take me long to jump in and catch up. Other big news is we are just a few days away from the kickoff of San Diego Comic-Con right here in my own backyard. And promises to be really big. Star Trek's going big. In fact, they are the primary sponsor. The Enterprise is on all the badges for all the attendees. Star Trek 60th, it's Strange New Worlds Season 4. There are 2 panels this year, one for the Strange New Worlds Season 4, and then there's a big Star Trek 60 panel, which has representation from every show sitting on it. So,
wow.
Yeah. And then there's another.
You didn't go last year, did you?
No, because getting tickets to get into it's a whole thing, and it's getting to be pretty expensive on top of that. And then when you get in there, it's lines. And my 48, almost 49-year-old gay ass will not tolerate that kind of waiting, pushing, inconvenience.
The VIP section. Come on.
If there was a way to do that, where I would have figured that out by now. But they do have their
package.
Yes. They do have an outside experience outside of Comic-Con, like they pretty much every year. So it's the Strange New Worlds Port Galley. So that is a ticketed event, but it's outside. You don't have to go. And as you guys know, they've done those through the year. Sometimes they have unique merchandise. Sometimes, I've done those always. So the Picard,
the bridge,
the 10 forward was down here one year famously. They've been doing this ever since Discovery launched. So like it's just something a little special so, and like I said, it's great because it's outside of Comic-Con, so anybody could go. And there's also a special showing at the Balboa Theater for the Strange New Worlds premiere on Friday night. Also free tickets if you just log in and request. But I don't really need to do that.
It's interesting that they seem to be doing more than usual to push season 4.
Yes.
For a show that has wrapped and they've completed production on. Right. So it's a somewhat of a head scratcher to me. Are we going to get some sort of announcement? I'm not optimistic on that front that there's going to be anything new announced, but it's interesting. I would not have expected them to be going as big on a show that they know is a lame duck at this point.
Yeah.
They still want the numbers, though. They still want the viewer numbers, and it is still the biggest franchise, I would expect, on Paramount Plus.
Yeah.
Unless SpongeBob SquarePants has exceeded it.
I think if we do get any Star Trek news out of Comic-Con, it might be an update on this alleged movie that's been greenlit. And, we haven't heard much about for quite some time. But I don't know. Warner Brothers, this whole Warner Brothers Paramount merge seems to be in danger. Oracle, the Ellisons that bought Paramount Plus and are now trying to buy. Apparently, their company has devalued by almost $300 billion recently. And so people are even starting to question whether or not they have the cash to buy Warner Brothers. So I don't know. I think this is all part of things that are affecting why we're not hearing about things being greenlit, period. So money.
Always about the money.
Always about the money. So anyways, we can hope. All right. Shall we jump into our main topic of the day? Kelvin, why don't you tee us up?
Okay. Well, as we've hinted at, and you might have guessed, we are starting a brand new series here on All Good Things, and we're calling it Personnel File, where we're going to do a deep dive into a particular character. And what better place to start than with episode 1, Dr. Beverly Crusher. So we're opening the first installment. From her years as Chief Medical Officer on the Enterprise to her appearances in Prodigy, a dramatic return in Picard Season 3, we'll look at Beverly's evolution and most memorable moments and whether Star Trek ever fully realized her potential.
Yeah.
Or Gates' potential.
Right, exactly. This one was kind of near and dear to me, obviously. My very first time podcasting was back whatever Galaxy class used to be called, but they wanted me to come on to do a Beverly Crusher profile, and so I did that. But obviously that was like in 2018, maybe, back when we only stopped at Nemesis. So
I remember listening to that episode on the treadmill at the gym.
Yeah, that was my first time ever podcasting. I remember how nervous I was. And then I even did a Trek Drinks where they did a Beverly Wesley episode. But these were all before we had like part 2 of Beverly's story, I guess, with her Prodigy and Picard Season 3 adding to her story quite a bit. And let's not forget that short Trek that we'll just try to forget. So let's, kicking off with, I guess, topic 1, we're going to cover the TNG and movie era, so the 4 TNG movies. Ben, what are your initial thoughts when I say Dr. Beverly Crusher? What feelings come to your mind, and how do you feel about the character as a whole?
I've always enjoyed Dr. Crusher as a character, and I feel that in a lot of ways she gets a bum rap because there's this, I think, sort of inaccurate narrative floating around out there that all of her patients die. And I'm aware of that simply because I've seen it online, not because I've ever in any way arrived at that conclusion myself from having watched the show. And I wonder how much of that, at least at first, was driven by the fact she was the first woman to be the chief medical officer on a Star Trek show. But I think competence is the first word that comes to mind when I generally think about Dr. Crusher.
Yeah. How about you, Kelvin?
I've never heard that, Ben, so that's shot me. And now I'm thinking, literally McCoy's catchphrase is, "He's dead, Jim." So that's even worse. So let's not diss Beverly too much. I have mother issues. So to me, Beverly Crusher is kind of the mother I would have loved to have had and looked up to. I see so many female characters in Star Trek as just amazing in their own right, but I don't associate them with family. Like I wouldn't say, I want Jadzia to be my sister. I want Deanna to be my crazy aunt. I'd like Marina to be my crazy aunt. But with Beverly is, I wish she was my mother. And I don't know if it's with the Wesley aspect, because when Next Gen came out, I was only a few years younger than Wesley is. Actually, maybe about 10 years younger, actually. But it was that dynamic. She was the mother on the show, and that was the show I invested in. That was my life. So she I guess mother is the word that resonates with me. No disrespect to my own mother, but Yeah, mother.
Yeah. Interesting. It's
What
funny.
about yourself?
I like the word competent, and I feel like I've used that word before to describe her at some point in time. I think she's, when I think of Beverly, it's like, what can't she do? I mean, whether she's the doctor, the mother, whether she's a scientist, and as we later saw, and good with the phaser, she put her in command of the Enterprise, whatever it is. There's, she can do it. So competent, right? And, she is the only one from an early time in TNG, to see not be afraid to go toe to toe with Captain Picard and challenge him and whatnot. And I feel like it's also a little bit of Gates in that, because Gates has a little bit of a history of doing that. And so I think she kind of embodies that really well in the character. And I just feel like she's, like I said, what can't Beverly do? It's like, not what would Beverly do? It's like, what can't Beverly do? So, what do you guys feel about like how, Beverly famously was written out of the show at the end of season 1 for things that happen off screen, and returns at the beginning of season 3. How do you guys feel like the character itself changed? I mean, because I see it, or do you guys not? I mean, I guess that's probably the first question.
I do, but I think everyone changed. I think TNG, the cast, the look, the narrative, it all changed at the start of season 3, and it sounds really odd to say, but I don't think Beverly not being there in season 2 was detrimental to the character of Beverly Crusher. She came back strong, belonged, and as though she'd been there all the time. So, it was just like a nice little holiday for Gates. I'm sure she would have preferred the money. But she just... I watched The High Ground a couple of days ago, and I've not watched that episode for ages. I don't think it's still banned here in the UK. I'm sure they play it now when they play. I've just not seen it. But I just thought this was the first true Beverly episode in season 3. And you would imagine that there'd been several beforehand, because she's just so comfortable.
Yeah, she's always there.
I agree with that. I think that I agree first that all of the characters felt somewhat new and improved, especially going from seasons 2 to 3, because there was the writer's strike, there were the recycled phase 2 scripts that were used in season 2. So a variety of reasons that the characters, I think, didn't develop as much as they could have in season 2. But there also seemed to be in season 3 less of an emphasis on her and Picard romantic elements. Will they, won't they? Is she pining over him? That seemed to not necessarily go away completely, but it wasn't so to the front of her character. And she's shown as a mother to Wesley, of course, in the years until Will Wheaton left the show. But it felt like less of a driving part of her character. Like, this is one of the most important parts of her. And she became more well-rounded, where she is all of these other things, but also a mother, not just a mom and a love interest for Picard.
Yeah.
Agreed. You're right. There's a definite shift there, I think, after Wesley leaves, especially. Like, you don't when you include Beverly now, it's not the mother storyline. It's the scientist, or whether they finally found her a love interest or whatnot. So I guess kind of hankering back here to the first half of TNG, do you guys have any like favorite Beverly episodes from, say, season 1 to 4 or Beverly moments from those episodes that just say like, okay, she's here? I mean, High Ground being one of them.
Yeah, I think if we're going 1 to 4, then I think I would be remiss not to mention Remember Me. I think it is probably, I would argue, most people's favorite Beverly episode. I always forget that cause and effect is the Beverly episode because it's such a perfect episode and everyone's got something to do, but it's all from Beverly's perspective. So it's well known out there that Cause and Effect is my favorite Star Trek episode. So I guess I'd have to say that's my favorite Beverly. But Remember Me is so strong. It clearly gave us her incredible line of, if there's nothing wrong with me, there must be something wrong with the universe.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't think you can go far wrong with that.
One of my favorite early season Beverly moments is in, I forget if it's part 1 or part 2 of All Good Things, or not All Good Things, I'm sorry, Best of Both Worlds. And when she's included on the away team to go over to the Borg cube with Worf and Data, I think.
Yep.
And that's something that I don't think would have happened in season 1. She was not there in season 2, but even earlier in season 3, she's not out there with the phaser on her belt and going with the boys into a dangerous situation. And so I loved having her included in that, because they certainly never gave that opportunity to Deanna, particularly early on. Yeah. And so I love that when they're over on the Borg cube, and to think she's one of the first Starfleet officers to see the inside of a cube, if you think about it that way. Really enjoyed that.
Well, and she also has a pivotal part there in figuring out how to stop the Borg cube, or at least slow them down.
The mosquitoes.
Yeah, so she kind of has just a moment there. I'm thinking of this other episode. What's the one with Tasha Yar's sister?
Ishara.
Legacy.
Ishara.
Is it Legacy?
Legacy. Yeah, but when they go to beam down to that planet, Worf doesn't want Beverly to go because she's a woman, and blah blah blah, and she has. And there's a few times in season 3 that Beverly has to check Worf and say, "Hey, no, I'm an officer. Blah blah blah. I have a job to do. It's my risk to take." And she does call him out in that episode before they beam down, because we're beaming down into a dangerous situation, and he doesn't want her to go.
Yeah, so. In the high ground, because it's so fresh in my mind, there was 2 things that stood out. There was the initial cold open where she's seen to the wounded, and Riker just turns to Picard saying, "I'm not going to be in the transporter room if you beam her up," without a word. That is character defining in itself. But then I couldn't help but compare and contrast Troy and Crusher in that episode. Troy is running around in a very almost weak manner. She doesn't have any kind of strong character development. And the moment when Geordi puts his comm badge on the bomb to beam it into space, Troy's like, "Oh no, his signal, what's going?" It was just a little bit pathetic. I'm really glad Amy's not here today. Compared with Beverly's strength, defiance, and just badassness. They clearly knew how to write female characters in that episode, in what they gave to Gates and to Beverly. So I was really frustrated and disappointed that Deanna looked a little bit pathetic in what she did in that episode, or what she didn't do. She was very, Beverly wasn't even the woman she wasn't a damsel in distress, despite the fact she was taken hostage. She probably could have got out of there on her own if she wanted to.
Yeah, I agree. I think poor Troy, and sometimes this is what happens, right? They need someone to say what the audience is thinking. And so that line gets written to make somebody look ignorant, and it's usually Troy.
Yeah, but go and watch The High Ground with that perspective, and you'll just be disappointed with Deanna. You'll be going, "Oh, come on." Maybe just because I watched Nemesis last night as well, and that is a complete flip on that argument. Deanna's got loads to do and is really strong and gets really good character development, and Beverly just says, "Oh, but Data, you've got nicer eyes."
Oh yeah, don't get me started. Sorry. I guess we'd be remiss if I didn't call out maybe two season 1 moments. Beverly is very strong, I think, in Symbiosis, where she's, taking on the Prime Directive and the Hippocratic Oath with Picard. and our special Don't Do Drugs episode. And I think she has a lot to do in conspiracy in a good way too, like in part of figuring that out. And she's the one that kind of breaks up the fight with Riker and the Admiral and whatnot. So, and then also figures out how to get Riker down there to deceive, so yeah, I don't know. I like her. And
we got a lot of Beverly backstory in the Arsenal of Freedom as well in season 1 about her life growing up with a grandmother and all the herbs.
Yes.
So yeah, I like the Arsenal of Freedom because it's a good action episode. It's a good Tashiar episode as well, which I like, and we get the good character development with Picard and Crusher.
Agreed. Jumping on to, I guess, the back half of TNG. Let's go seasons 5, 6, 7. Beverly's best moments. I'll start this one off. Probably my favorite is Descent Part 2, when she's in command of the Enterprise and just basically kicking ass. I mean, like how calm, cool, and collective she is as captain, and still Beverly in the sense of not willing to give up on her crew and her friends, but at the same time sciencing her way out of it and mentoring and showing that if she didn't take the time to mentor, the solution would never have presented itself in that episode. So because kind of to show you can't discount people. So I love her in as many things for many reasons in Descent Part 2.
I will kind of tie that in with Suspicions a few episodes earlier, which establishes the metaphasic shields which they use in Descent, and that is Beverly just doesn't seem to care about the rules. It's almost like she has her scientific research and medicine passion, but the actual Starfleet element of her career, it's something we've seen Beverly walk away from a few times in all of Star Trek. So if something moral overrides her rules of being in Starfleet and do the job, she will follow her morality and say, 2 fingers up, and I'm just going to go for it. And that's a really good example where she risks everything career-wise because she believes in something, and it pays off.
Not afraid to burn the place down.
Unless you've got your metaphasic shields up, and then they don't.
Yes. Which, even the metaphasic shields, that ties, we hear them mentioned again in Picard season 3. They're talking about calibrating metaphasic shields before they leave space dock. And I'm just like, it's a nice little callback to, 30 plus years before. Ben, what are your favorite moments from seasons, let's say the back end of season of TNG?
I really enjoy her in, it was just on the tip of my tongue, and it'll come back to me, but going from just shifting to a real life perspective, I've always really, really enjoyed Genesis. And that's not so much a Beverly episode as it is a Gates episode, because she directed. Beverly meets Klingon poison early demise in the episode and is put into stasis conveniently to get her character out. But I've always loved that. I thought that some of the horror cliches and the jump scares and the direction she did was a great rare horror episode of Star Trek. So I've always enjoyed that very much. I will say that I enjoyed her performance. I know it can be sort of a controversial episode, but Sub Rosa, yeah. I think even if it's not my favorite premise, I still love the episodes that are really dedicated to one specific character. And she got great screen time. I think she got to, flex her acting chops more than usual. Let me read off what the tricorder says, like in a lot of episodes. And we poke a lot of fun at that these days, but I still enjoy the episode. And one of the reasons I enjoy it is because it's a Beverly episode.
Yeah, I think Jonathan Frakes directed that episode, and I think they've talked about like they just really kind of realized we're just going to camp this up and could be a little bit more over the top and to make it work, because they knew it wasn't like this amazing episode, but like, hey, this is what we have to shoot. So they had some fun with it. So, hey, and it's become, a legendary episode at this point, and I mean, she's even going to have an action figure based off that.
I'd like to come back to Genesis actually, Ben, because you just prompted my memory. The opening scene in Genesis is amazing, where it's all in sickbay, and it's almost directed as a one shot, and it just follows everything round. So you've got Riker having rolled over in the thorns, you've got Barclay with his neuroses, you've got Spock coming in being pregnant. There's a lot going on, but you're in Beverly's sickbay and she's in charge. And she's saying, like, you stay out of the medical records and you stay out of the Arboretum. And it's a celebration of Beverly Crusher, that, and directorially really well done for her first debut into directing. So that opening scene is a particular treat.
Yeah.
Another one that comes to mind is Chain of Command Part 1, where she, Picard, and Worf go on the clandestine looking for the metaphasic weapon or whatever it is on the Cardassian outpost. And come to think of it, she's one of the few characters that she really gets to cross-train, so to speak. She gets to do her primary roles. She gets to go on secret missions. She gets to occasionally command the ship. She gets to enjoy the company of her grandma's sex candle ghost. Like, she really gets a large variety of things to do in a way that I think even some of the male characters don't get quite as much variety, even if it is few and far between, that she does.
Yeah, she's like, she has her whole theater troupe that she runs on the ship. She's in Worf's calisthenics classes. I mean, she's like, active on. Like, how many different things does Riker do?
How many different women?
Yes.
He, to me, is a very one lane character. He's got his one lane and he stays in it basically from start to finish through, the 30 years of the franchise. And Beverly gets to have a little more variation in her storytelling.
Yeah, no, I agree. They show many different aspects of her. I guess, in talking about some of these other episodes, I mean, if you think about some of these episodes where she's just there, but she's part of it, like Data's Day, or Lower Decks, or even
Perfect Mate.
Yeah, where she's doing stuff, but it's not even about her in the episode, but the character is adding either some good feedback or a foil to somebody else in the episode. Like Perfect Mate's a really great one. She's really only got a one scene in that episode with Jean-Luc, but man, it's a scene.
What does she call him? She called him basically like
a slave trader,
traffickers.
I mean, but like back to what I was saying earlier, though, somebody who's not afraid to tell Jean-Luc exactly what she's thinking. And I think that's important for him as a leader too, to have at least that one person, whether it's going to be your first officer or not, that's going to, take you aside and call you out.
Think about that in your own workplace as well. If you lead a team, you don't want to be surrounded by a lot of yes people. You do want someone who will, in the most appropriate manner, challenge you and get different ways of thinking and creativity and points of view across. And, there are so many examples, particularly in Next Generation, of people just doing what they're told by the captain. And Beverly, I would say, is probably the only exception.
Yeah.
I think we'd be remiss too if we didn't mention the host. It's one of the very few episodes with even the slightest hint of an LGBTQ plus issue. And there's a lot of things I enjoy about it. I don't love that it's sort of the TNG equivalent of Meridian, where Beverly has found the love of her life by the time the cold open is finished, with no lead up, no context. It's just suspend disbelief. And since the end of the last episode, she's found and is very deeply invested in this new love interest. But I love the way that Gates carried the episode. I love that even for the time, I think the ending was sensitive and mindfully written. Beverly says that, this is, we can't continue this because of my shortcoming. It's nothing, to do with you. It's nothing to do with the situation. Maybe one day we'll all be more enlightened and can love more openly and freely, but I'm just not there right now. And
very carefully worded.
For mid 90s, I still think that's pretty progressive for early 90s. That would have been early 90s.
Yeah, season 4.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, you also have to remember, like, Gates is like 8 months pregnant when that episode is filmed. So to have to carry that off when she's probably not even feeling very well, just kind of like one of those behind the scenes things that you have to say, well, okay, that's as an actress, that's pretty formidable that she was still able to, give a convincing performance. Any other standout moments from the TNG? I mean, we didn't really touch on the movie era, but I think we all kind of agree that with the exception of some parts of First Contact, there's not a whole lot for Beverly to do in the movies.
I loved Captain Beverly Picard in All Good Things. That was a highlight of that for me. And I think up to that point, Beverly really was one of, if not the only weregular female cast member that was written in a way that clearly she could be a captain.
Yeah.
We've got we have Uhura and some rotating, recurring female characters in the original. They were never done justice. I don't think Deanna was done justice. You've got Deep Space Nine on the air by then. And Kira at that point is still sort of the hothead. You never know if she's going to make the right choice or not. Sort of firecracker, unpredictable. Jadzia, love her. She's my favorite, but she's like the good time gal. She's just here to have a good time and look, have fun with the Samoan fire dancer. But Beverly really was the first woman on Star Trek that it just, she is almost like the proto Janeway to me.
I was just going to say Beverly got us ready for Janeway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One of the things I love about All Good Things, the episode, not this podcast, is comparing and contrasting All Good Things to Picard season 3, which is kind of set in roughly the same time period, give or take a couple of years, as to where the future was. So we had Captain Beverly Crusher in All Good Things future timeline, and then we actually did have Captain Beverly of the Helios in season 3 of All Good Things. So I like that she maintained that kind of trajectory, even though the timeline didn't work out the same. And I love with the other characters kind of doing that as well. Obviously, we got LaForge with his same children that he had in All Good Things as well. So, I think she was destined to be the captain because she's more than a doctor. What about her relationship with Jean-Luc? We've not really talked about the ebbs and flows of that.
Yeah, I mean, I liked her relationship with Jean-Luc and the whole will they, won't they. I'm glad, that was a kind of a progressive thing that happened throughout the show. And I don't think they were ever meant to be together during the show because you kind of needed to keep Jean-Luc single and things like that. But I love that we got attached and a chance for them to kind of finally revisit things at a level that we hadn't seen since season 1, probably. And, at the end of that episode, when Beverly's the one that turns him down, seems like, wow, he got, not too many leading men would allow that to happen to their characters. So, I know Patrick Stewart, give him a lot of credit for that. What do you guys think of Jean-Luc and Beverly?
I remember being overjoyed with that Ready Room scene in All Good Things where they have a kiss in the current timeline, and it was the final episode, and to me that ended the series of, oh my god, they're going to get together. So I was very invested. Ross and Rachel are friends, will they, won't they? I envisaged they'd get together. And maybe one of the things that I did feel was missing in the movies was that just went. There was a little scene in Nemesis when they were looking at the really bad picture of Tom Hardy in a original series movie uniform. But then it's later established that they were together in Nemesis, but it just wasn't really shown on camera. So the kind of the books and the Picard season 3 retcon throws me. But I would have liked it if they'd set them up as a couple in the same way they did Will and Deanna. Maybe that was deemed too much. I think maybe pairing up officially Will and Deanna back together in Insurrection probably halted the ability to do the same with Picard and Crusher, because then you'd get people like me saying, oh, look what they've done to the female characters. They've just married them off.
True. I do like the retcon, because you do kind of feel that intimacy in Nemesis that they still are there. I mean, she's sitting on the side of his desk because not afraid to come around. So you can read a lot between the lines there. So I do like what you said about the end and All Good Things too, because I remember that kind of leaves off with they did, at least at that time. So Ben, what are your thoughts?
That's it. I think Gates has never looked better than she does in All Good Things, with the smoky eye. Her hair is amazing. Into Generations,
which was literally filmed several days later. But
agree. Love that look. I think it was missing from a continuity standpoint from the films, but from a production standpoint, you've got Anij in Insurrection. She is a key plot point. She's Picard's love interest. So you couldn't have her and Beverly at the same time. Not so much in any of the other films. I don't think Lily in First Contact was that never struck me as a romantic relationship.
No,
but I do enjoy Beverly's small parts in First Contact, especially. I think that was the movie where she probably had the most to do, even though it wasn't very much. But evacuating sickbay, and of course, when they activate the self-destruct sequence, when they're getting ready to blow the ship to hell at the end of the episode, and it's Picard, Beverly, and Worf whose command codes are required.
And it's Commander Beverly Crusher.
Yeah, and she's giving orders on the bridge. I loved that moment for her.
Yeah, and what a lot of people don't say out loud is she is the acting XO in First Contact, because Riker and Data are out of commission, and Worf is not even part of that crew. So she is the de facto XO in that, in the parts of that movie. So that's kind of, like I said, it would have been cool if it was emphasized a little bit more. But I mean, you definitely see her screaming orders and telling people what to do. So,
and again, she is nothing but tough as nails in that episode when she evacuates sickbay. But also empathetic, because when she finds Worf in the Jeffries tube, she says, you have to go find this woman from the 21st century. She doesn't know where she is. She doesn't know what any of this is that's happening to her. Please, Worf, go find her.
Yeah.
But then at the same time is able to, like you said, be barking orders on the bridge. And she is never shown as being afraid or having any sense of hesitation when it comes to either issuing or carrying out an order.
Yeah. Agreed. I think too, one thing that, you can kind of like, I would, if you want to call it a regeneration, I feel like Beverly's quick to tell Lily, well, the captain's made up his mind. When the captain makes up his mind, that's the end of it. If Lily hadn't been there, it would have been a Beverly going into that ready room or conference room and probably confronting Picard about, his, Moby Dick tendencies.
I would have loved that, but
it works great with Willie.
That scene with Alfre Woodard and Patrick Stewart is my single favorite scene in all of Star Trek. The acting is just incredible, and it would have been great with Beverly from a character development standpoint for her, but the dynamic between Patrick Stewart and Alfre Woodard was just so delicious to watch that I wouldn't want it any other way.
I get PTSD by all the ships breaking. I'm like, oh my God, all the merchandise.
So normally this podcast would have wrapped up there, but we did get out in the last couple of years more Beverly 20 years later. And, we got her in 3 episodes of Star Trek Prodigy, which was pretty cool. And that was the last thing I expected when Prodigy came along. And then, of course, we got her in all 10 episodes of Picard season 3. And probably if you want to, with the exception of Jonathan Frakes, I think of all the returning cast members from TNG, Riker and Beverly have by far the biggest stories and the most to do in Picard season 3, with the exception of Picard. So I remember, just first off, feelings when you guys, maybe that's a good question to kick off our season 3 discussion. When we heard that TNG was basically coming back for one more run, we're going to get that final movie that we never got, or, the closure. I remember I was in Napa on a business trip when that little trailer dropped, and I was walking between meetings, and someone pinged me, you have to watch this. It might've been you, Kelvin, but, and then I had to watch it and then go into a meeting and not and contain my excitement. So, and I can definitely tell you, I did not disappoint for me. How did you guys feel when you kind of realized you were going to get one more major outing with our TNG cast?
I was thrilled with the news, and with the benefit of a few years and at least 2 full rewatches of that season, I will say that it far exceeded even my wildest, most optimistic expectations. It is close to as perfect of a season of Star Trek, I think, as you could get.
Very nicely put. So, Kelvin.
I remember having Amy Nelson here in Manchester with me, and Joe and Ewan were here from Scotland as well. And we were out having dinner, and the trailer dropped, the very first trailer for season 3. And I think the staff in the restaurant thought someone had died. They came over saying, "Is everything all right?" Because our faces were just on the table. So we couldn't believe it. But I remember in real time, Christos, as we would be messaging, having calls and things, that yes, we knew Gates was back. Yay! But when more and more details were emerging of this is all about Beverly Crusher, you were like, I would not have put money on this in my lifetime ever happening. So I was excited to see it, but I was almost more excited for you. This was the gift that I never even thought you would ever receive.
I know. I mean, it was just the whole season is just like gravy, as they say. When it started to take shape that that she's the catalyst of the season and the catalyst of what brings the adventure together and brings the crew back together. I was super, super excited, but even more so, I guess we'll just start by saying thank you, Terry Metalis. But, to see Beverly kind of just show up and just say episode 1, the Next Generation, right? It's called, I think, just to see her, where she is, off on this ship, Doctors Without Borders type, rogue, out of Starfleet, out of the Federation, and doing her thing. And of course, there's the mystery son, of course, and all that element. But just seeing her, with the rifle and the way she reaches out to Picard, the drama that creates, that message to Admiral Jean-Luc Picard. I mean, it's what a way to blow open a season and show you, I remember I went to the premiere of Picard the red carpet premiere in LA and got to watch those first 2 episodes with Patrick Stewart and Gates McFadden and all of them in the theater. And like the way the theater erupted kind of with that initial Beverly scene, it just kind of that moment of your litmus test of, oh, I'm not the only one that feels this way about what's happening. Everybody thinks this is badass. And
what about that scene? I don't know if it's in episode 1 or 2, where she's brought onto the bridge and there's that face acting between Gates and Patrick Stewart.
Yes.
And it goes on for about 30 seconds, no dialogue. And
yes,
the guilt she portrays, the acceptance that washes over Picard, and he says, because he's my son.
Just that's the
10 end of 10 acting.
Yeah, in fact, I don't think Beverly has any lines in episode 2 because she's incapacitated most of the episode. But you're right, that face acting at the end of the episode. And that episode, that scene mirrors her first walk on the bridge and the encounter at Farpoint. The way that, if you watch those kind of the way they do it and the way she walks off and looks at Picard she hasn't seen in all those years, and there's a lot of duality between those 2 scenes. But you're right. Doesn't say a word in the whole episode, but probably says the most.
Yes, steals it.
Yeah. My favorite Picard season 3, because I think we all know this very well. I feel like No Win Scenario, episode 4, probably the best episode of the season, maybe, arguably. But you just see that competent Beverly Crusher becoming Starfleet Beverly Crusher again, but sciencing her way out of a problem and bringing Picard and Riker along at the same time. That watching them kind of work together, I just remember, I still watch that episode all the time. Any favorite moments, I guess? Any other favorite moments from season 3 of Picard?
I think the scene where Beverly and Jean-Luc address the fact that she kept Jack's existence from him for so long in sickbay is another another example of excellent acting. You feel what they're feeling, and I think it is those episodes like Attached and the will they won't they moments of the last 30 years that viewers that have been on the journey with them from the very beginning, that laid the groundwork, I think, for having that sort of knockdown, drag out. We're just going to leave everything on the table. It's not going to be a wink or a suggestion or a maybe. That gave, I think, some really good closure to that storyline and was just fantastic to watch.
Yeah, mine's a bit of a cheap thrill moment, but in the final episode where she's at the tactical station, and it is a joke, it is done for a laugh, but she's like, a lot's happened in 30 years.
Yeah. I like that part for another reason. I love that we finally see like the Enterprise D go full weapons, like what it really could do that we never really got to see.
I still struggle with that. I quite like the idea of the D being the lurching tank. Like if you played Mario Kart, if you were like Bowser, you're really powerful, but you go quite slowly. You're not as nimble as Toad and Princess Peach. Yeah. That's the Enterprise D to me, and that's how they carried it through with the Galaxy classes in DS9, in all the big ship battles. So to see it like a micro machine going around, I've still not made peace with that.
I feel the same way about the Enterprise in Strange New Worlds. The way it kind of just flips around sometimes, and I'm just thinking I'm used to Kirk and Star Trek 2 and the way the Enterprise moves so gracefully and it's like that's like you said, it can do cartwheels through space.
Maybe it gets a downgrade at the end of season.
Oh yeah, Ortega just does too much to it.
Can we story Zhuzh for just a second?
Yeah.
As we've been talking about this and Beverly's roles in season 3 and how she was the captain of the Helios. What if in some alternate universe in season 1, she had become the commander-in-chief of Starfleet and not Kirsten Clancy, and she's the one that Picard has to go to asking for a ship and is she tells him no because she's now the boss. And somehow or another, she eventually would have said, yeah, Riker, go rescue him, whatever. But to have her in that position of authority in season 1, obviously season 3 would have had to have been different, but I think that could have been a fun alternate universe in which she was not just head of Starfleet Medical, she was the commander-in-chief of Starfleet.
I love that. I love that for 2 reasons. Firstly, I would have loved to have heard Gates say sheer fucking hubris. Sorry, Christoph, you have to press the E button now. But I like, you know what I said about the synchronicity between All Good Things and Picard, because that mirrors the Riker scene of give me a ship. No, we're not doing it. You know, go away, old man type thing. You're past it.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just going to say he had to go to Beverly and convince her for help with the Pasteur, so that would have been kind of, you know, like a little bit of a mirror effect there, I guess, you know. So I like that. I like that. Is there anything you guys? I'm going to start wrapping this up here. Anything story-wise that we didn't get out of Beverly that we would have liked to, or did season 3 kind of wrap her up very nicely for us?
I'm going to go down the route of what Gates herself has said on many occasions, that she didn't enjoy the fact that, yes, it was well clear that she was the mother to Wesley, but she didn't get to help Wesley with his problems. He always had to go to a man. So there's so many occasions of Wesley saves the day or Wesley saves his mum, but there isn't really any good examples of Beverly saves her son in like a dramatic storyline. Even in things like Angel 1, she's just kind of quivering in the background, and Picard's the one who has to break the rules and the Prime Directive. So a heartfelt Wesley's going to die and Beverly has to do something badass to save him. I don't think we got that.
I might argue data lore.
She waves the phaser at the door and gets shot.
But Wesley goes to her for help, and beyond mom help, just like I think there's problems help, and you know Beverly's trying to help. You know,
is that the famous Wesley episode?
Yes, that is where shut up. Yeah, but there is
everyone on the bridge.
Yeah, but like to your point, look how Picard responded to that. So.
Do you think, though, Kelvin, that was redeemed in the finale of Picard season 3, where she's at the tactical console, she's firing phasers and photon torpedoes to go save not Wesley, but her other son, Jack, and just goes total, you know, commando badass to do it.
Definitely. But, you know, yes, a lot's happened in 30 years, including better representation of women on screen in leadership and competent positions, of equality with the male heroes of the show. So I think, yes, they corrected it, but it would stand out like a sore thumb if they didn't, just because of the fact it's now 2026. So, yeah, that's why I'm sticking with... we know Beverly Crusher was a mum. She was the mum I want, but we didn't get to see her save the day with Wesley.
Yeah. All right. And my last question is, we've talked about a lot of Beverly moments, a lot of Beverly episodes. Do you guys want to give me your favorite all-time Beverly moment, episode, or scene, whatever?
I should have prepped for this. I need a bit more time to think. So, Ben, if you've got one, Christos, you go first.
Yeah.
I know mine. If I had to pick a single favorite Beverly moment, it would be, I think, really her performance throughout All Good Things, where, you know, she's diagnosing Picard with rheumatic syndrome at the beginning, to misdiagnosing, correct, to seeing her in the captain's chair in command of her own ship. I think up till that point, that was really the culmination of all of the different facets of the character that we got to see, and an acknowledgement that she is and has been eminently capable the whole time of being in charge, the main character, making the hard decisions, and sitting in the captain's chair.
Yeah. What about you, Christos?
Descent Part 2 is probably my TNG favorite of hers, and there's obviously nothing from the movies that's going to rise to that level for me. I might argue between Descent and parts of her in season 3 of Picard, but I'm trying not, for recency, I'm trying not to choose anything from Picard because I feel like that's, but I would say, Captain Beverly Crusher and Descent Part 2, and using her own experiences to science, the metaphasic shields, the mentoring of Tate, the way that all comes together. I mean, she gets no credit for having destroyed a Borg ship and saving everybody on the Enterprise. But, it's kind of a glossed over. In fact, as metaphasic shields, you would think it was another lost moment there, that we didn't see more of that for another 30 years because of what they were able to do with that.
There's so many big Beverly moments in the Beverly episodes, but I resonate a lot with the quieter moments, the smaller scenes in non-Beverly episodes. So like the breakfast scenes with Picard. We've not even mentioned the chase, Christos, your favorite episode. It is a Beverly episode, but in Attached, the conversation where she's saying about her old boyfriend, where she says, "Is your face dirty?" and she really embarrassed him. So those like cheeky Beverly moments, or in Sub Rosa, where she's talking about reading the journal, or the stretching scene with Deanna. I like those quiet conversations where you realize she's not only this really serious, competent scientist, she's good fun. She's funny. She's someone you'd want to go and have a drink with.
Yeah, those humanizing type moments, right, where you can see past the day job and what their normal function. It's like when they're not on the job and they're actually able to like decompress a little bit, and you learn a little bit more about them, and then you kind of get that you realize this is somebody I would hang out with.
So I guess without pinpointing a single favorite, I'm going to collectively group those unsung Beverly Crusher moments littered throughout probably most episodes.
That is a perfect way to sum it up. And I think the closing verdict I'm going to say is, I had this prepared. Beverly Crusher was always more than a doctor, but it took Star Trek far too long to let her prove it. And even when you talk about how things got better for her later in TNG, and then, of course, a step back on the movies, and then a redemption in Picard season 3. Like, imagine if they just had kind of treated her right out of the gate, how that might have looked a little different for the character. And Kelvin, tell us what we can look forward to next time on All Good Things.
Next time on All Good Things. I need to do a major voice for that. We are heading back to the courtroom. Ding, ding, order, order. Part 4, and we are going to Starfleet Academy with its season 1 finale episode, Rubicon. I always find that hard to say because I want to say Rubicon, the runabout. But yeah, it's the courtroom where the Venari Royal put Captain Archie on trial, I guess. And that is where we're going. Can't wait.
Season 1, episode 10.
That is a great episode. And in the meantime, we'd love to hear what you thought of today's show. And there are many ways you can do this. You can join our Facebook group, the BQN Collective. You can join our Discord server, or you can follow the network on Blue Sky and Instagram at BQN Podcasts to continue our discussion there. You can find the links and the invite code in the show notes.
Kelvin, where can people find you when you're not setting your metaphasic shields to switch frequencies?
You've done better than that before.
I know.
Well, when I'm not tinkering with my metaphasic shields, you can find me over on most of the socials in various degrees of addicted swimwear from Stitches at Kelvin's Timeline. Or you can come and chat with me in my favorite place, the Facebook group, the BQN Collective. And Ben, where can people find you when you're not introducing us to the trill by sleeping with them?
Well, you can find me on the socials at Ben Boldly Goes or in the Facebook group. Christos, where can people find you when you're not lighting that special candle?
You know what that's like. You can find me in the Facebook group, the BQN Collective, our Discord server, but probably most easily over on Instagram at What's the Tea Bev. You'll never hear a commercial here on BQN, and if you'd like to help us keep all of our shows coming to you each week, you can become a patron of the network on Patreon. For just $1 a month, you can watch the video version of this very podcast, or you can join our reaction shows, script readings, and our very special patron-only back catalog of shows like It's Green and Amy's Math Moments. Visit patreon.com/BQN to sign up and get all the details.
I love that you just caused a blooper in the Patreon bit, which is the Patreon exclusive that they pay for. So enjoy, patrons. It's almost like you planned it, Christos.
I know. Freudian slip.
Now, if becoming a patron isn't your thing, you can still support the show by sharing our posts on social media, talking about it with your friends, or hitting the like and subscribe button on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, and leaving us a 5-star rating and a written review. That'll help others to find the show and builds our community of awesome listeners.
We would like to thank all of our patrons, but give a special shout out to our very own associate producer, JJ Seastrom. A special thanks to Graham Kelly for our opening and closing music, and to Kelvin for our artwork each and every week.
Thank you for listening.
We hope you'll join us as we search out
all good things.